Hi, everybody. This is Todd Krieger, and today I'll be talking more about infidelity, but really focusing today and for like a little series for the betrayer, the person who did the betrayal. Of course, I want people that were victims of betrayal to watch this as well. I think this is really helpful to listen or watch. Okay, so today I want to talk about self-understanding and accountability regarding the person who did the betraying. And the first question might be, why did I do this? Especially more than once if we're talking about multiple infidelities. Why did I do this? Another question that I'm going to go over is, am I broken, addicted, or just selfish? Another question is, was I trying to escape something in myself or the relationship? Another question is, how do I stop this pattern? And the last is, do I even deserve to be forgiven? So I'm going to tackle these five issues. I think it's important. Look, in this talk, it's a very complex topic. I'm not going to hit all the points, but I think what I want to hit is the highlights in terms of all the decades of work I've done with people that did betray. So the question here is to start off with is, why did I do this? Especially more than once. There's an expression I just heard recently, and it said infidelity begins in childhood. Now, that is a wild notion, but there's some truth in it, there's some wisdom. I do want you to open your mind, whether you're the person who betrayed or the person who is the victim of it, or you just want to listen because people have been through this. The reason people oftentimes do this is from a multitude of reasons. But if you've done this as a lifestyle, it's typically because you learned how to regulate your energy in ways that sabotage your relationship. We all live our lives to be in this zone. I call it a healthy life zone of energy. And if I'm too above that top one, meaning I'm too stressed, I do something to reduce my stress. And if I am too below the low one, feeling too bored or empty, and if I don't have healthy ways to regulate, I find another way to regulate. And so there can be a part of me that might not be integrated with the rest of me. The rest of me might be, I'm married or I'm committed. I can't act out and sabotage the relationship. But there might be a part that has learned to be its own separate entity. For example, let's say, I think it's a good example. I've seen this a lot. You came from a family, let's say you're a man in this case, even though women cheat as much as, not as much maybe, but plenty. And my practice is more men than women, but there's plenty of women too. But let's say in this example, you're a man who grew up as a child with your dad very critical of you. And so there's this part of you that never felt enough. And so this part, instead of knowing itself and being able to be, I would say, processed and to come out the other side of, wow, I was okay. This child part, this younger part is constantly trying to prove he is okay. Maybe he does it by being a perfectionist, or maybe he does it by always having to be the best, or maybe he does it by taking advantage and bullying other people. Or maybe as an adult, let's say he gets married and his wife is always not always giving him compliments, applauding him, and feeding his ego. Because who does that? We get busy with other things, and yet there's this part. There's this part that constantly feels inadequate, constantly has to prove he's okay, so that the rest of him doesn't have to feel bad about himself. And some coworker, a female, let's say coworker, starts to stroke that ego, and he falls into it. This is not an excuse. This is not saying it's okay. I say this all the time, but I have to keep saying it. I'm just saying that people that cheat, the question, why did I do this? Especially more than once. It's not because you're a terrible, bad person. It's not. That's simple. There's a simple explanation, but it's absolutely incorrect. When you look deeply into what's truly going on, there's usually some part of you that's trying to solve a problem, but you're doing it in a way that's hurtful, very hurtful to your partner, and definitely sabotaging the committed relationship. So why did I do this? Why did I do this? I did this to feel better about me. I A lot of times it's this upregulation. You're below that level, you're bored, you don't even know how to fully enjoy your partner because you're so shielded, because your whole life was about being good enough. I'm using that example, that you never learned how to just be who you are and truly take in your partner who's not always applauding you, but loves you. Just loves you day to day. You might not be taking it in and enjoying it. So you're empty, not because your partner's not giving to you. It's because this part of you is looking for something to prove. And you're not going to try to prove yourself with your partner of 2 years, 10 years, 30 years. You're going to try to prove it with somebody new. So we do this to upregulate or sometimes to downregulate, you know, which I'll talk about in a little while. Downregulate is reducing your stress. So let me go to question number 2. Am I broken, addicted, or just selfish? I use the word selfish actually in a positive way because selfish is we need to think of ourselves. The problem is that because you're not fully integrated, in other words, there's a part of you that's acting on its own and in a way betraying you, betraying any part of you that values being caring and values being honest and open because of that part of you is self-absorbed. And that's the issue. It's acting separate from the rest of you who might value commitment. It's definitely acting separate from the needs your partner has, which is for you to be honest and loving and transparent. Am I broken? I don't use the word broken. So I would say, no, you're not broken. You are trying to solve a problem, but because maybe of limited ways of solving problems, maybe you didn't learn how to regulate that energy in healthy ways as a child, that your choices are limited and you are solving problems in ways, again, that betray the rest of you and your partner. I would not say you're broken. You're wounded, but not broken. Am I addicted? That's a good word. If you want to define addiction as something you do a lot that sabotages you, then you could say you're addicted. But again, that addiction is coming from a part of you that, again, using that same example, that needs to feel your ego stroked even at the expense of other things. Again, those are words. Addiction's a word, broken's a word, selfish is a word. Problem again is disconnected. You're disconnected from your partner and you're disconnected from the rest of you that values your marriage or values your family. The next question, was I trying to escape something in myself or the relationship? The answer could be yes. If you are down regulating, that people will use, especially if you've done it multiple times, but even once, the infidelity serves as a way to numb yourself, to downregulate from the pain, to escape from the pain. And you might be escaping from your own pain. I've seen people, they cheat when they've had a demotion at work or they had a significant decrease of money and they felt like a failure. So they might be escaping this pain of failure. That's when they do that. And once they do that once, they could do it more than once because it becomes a slippery slope. Is it trying to escape something in the relationship? Yeah, the answer could be yes again. I'm not blaming the relationship or the partner. This is that relationships inherently have pain. Sometimes you don't get what you want, but if you don't know how to communicate that and stay connected to your partner, then you operate disconnected. That's the word that keeps coming up for me in this talk I'm giving you, that you disconnect. And so you don't have a way to decrease the stress of not getting what you want by communicating maturely and having a dialogue. So instead, you escape something in the relationship that you don't like, or you escape something inside of yourself that feels uncomfortable. So the fourth question, how do I stop this pattern? I'm giving you some hints here. A lot of it is really awareness. So first step is awareness, awareness of our parts. Not just one, we're made up of different parts. And for you to become very interested and curious about this part of you that cheated. I've seen many betrayed people try to bury it because they say, it makes me bad. I got to bury it. That's the worst thing you could do because you're actually giving that part of you power to repeat. But when you are aware and interested and curious, what is that all about? Sometimes with many of the betrayed people I've met, they trace it back to some part of them, a younger part that didn't feel good enough or felt neglected or felt empty or depressed or inadequate, whatever it is, back as a child. The other thing you can do to stop this pattern is to process that pain. So you have awareness and then you process it. Unprocessed pain can lead to acting out. I tend to help my clients process it by talking about it directly, but also doing trauma treatment called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a trauma process, that trauma treatment that helps people heal so that they don't stay stuck. So that part of them that acted out doesn't keep hijacking you. That part is attended to, is healed, and now is integrated with the rest of you so you don't compartmentalize and act out and sabotage again. So again, it's awareness and then also being able to process the pain that part of you was trying to solve and doing it in unhealthy ways. Last question, do I even deserve to be forgiven? Again, that's a complicated question because there's you forgiving you and your partner forgiving you. Your partner can forgive you if and when he or she is ready. I think that if your partner is willing to work with you in this relationship and stay with you, you better give that partner a lot of reason to forgive you. In other words, you got to practice being aware, practice healing and processing your pain, and practice connecting the parts of you, but also connecting with your partner. When your partner starts to see that in a consistent way, they start to feel more safe. And only then can they forgive because forgiveness is about letting go. So forgiveness for the betrayed person is in their best interest if they feel safe with you. They don't, then how could they forgive you? Unless they leave you, and then they can forgive you. Now, do you deserve to be forgiven by yourself? I don't really see any purpose, any healthy purpose for you to hold yourself in contempt and to not forgive yourself indefinitely. But I do think that you better learn from this first, that you need to pay attention to that part of you, try to understand why you did this, especially more than once, even if you did it just once, though. Work with someone as myself to help you heal and process those parts of you that did that, and then recognize that it's important for you to only act on impulses that are in line with your best self, your highest values. And hopefully you value commitment and value honesty. And if you're doing those things and you know you're doing those things, of course, why not? You can't forgive yourself. People forgive themselves for drinking too much. People forgive themselves for even being abusive when they stop being abusive and they learn from their patterns. And you can forgive yourself for being unfaithful, but you have to do the work. You do have to do the work. Ultimately, like I said, I don't think there's any really good purpose in committing yourself to never forgiving yourself. That doesn't help you. It doesn't help your partner. As a matter of fact, people that are in that mode, they're self-absorbed, too busy beating themselves up, so they really can't even stay present to be with their partner. It's very important to recognize, like I said, understand yourself, be accountable for what you did, take responsibility, not blame the partner, not blame the relationship, and recognize that it was just your unhealthy, and I'll say immature and unenlightened way to solve an emotional problem. And so now, with awareness and with the willingness to heal, you have other choices. So thanks for listening. Hopefully, this is helpful. Pass it on to other people if you find it's helpful, people that you think can be helped by this. Thanks a lot. This is Todd Krieger, making the world safe for love.